The sun burned high over the fields as the father and his young son dragged the plow through the dry soil. It was just another ordinary day, until the boy suddenly stopped. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. "Hear what?" The father replied, not even looking up. A voice, like someone crying. The father frowned, but shook his head. "It's just the wind. Keep working." But the boy knew what he heard. It wasn't the wind. As the day passed, the faint sound came again and again. Weak, desperate, like someone trapped beneath the earth. That night, unable to sleep, the boy grabbed a shovel and quietly returned to the field. The moonlight barely lit his path as he reached the exact spot. The sound was clearer now. "Help me." His hands trembled as he began to dig. The soil felt strangely soft, almost warm. With every scoop, the voice grew louder, closer. Then, thud, his shovel hit something hard. He dropped to his knees and brushed away the dirt, revealing an old wooden surface. A coffin. His breath quickened. The voice was now right beneath him. "Open it." Driven by fear and curiosity, he slowly lifted the lid. Inside was darkness, too deep, too endless for such a small space. And then something moved. A pale hand shot out, grabbing his wrist tightly. The boy tried to scream, but no sound came out. From inside the coffin, a voice whispered, now no longer weak, but filled with something ancient and hungry. "You shouldn't have opened it." The next morning, the father returned to the field. The ground was freshly disturbed, but the boy was gone, and from beneath the soil came a new voice. "Help me." The father and his son had been working on their land for years, but there was one patch of soil that always felt wrong. One afternoon, as the boy poured water over that dry section, he suddenly froze. "Father, look." The clear water seeped into the ground and slowly turned dark red. Like blood, the father rushed over, his face tightening. He touched the soil, rubbed it between his fingers, then forced a smile. "It's nothing. Just strange minerals," he said, though his voice lacked confidence. But the villagers had already noticed. Whispers spread quickly. "That land is cursed. Don't dig there." The boy grew scared, but the father saw something else, opportunity. "If something is hidden here," he muttered, "it must be valuable." The next day, he brought tools and began digging deeper into that cursed patch. The boy begged him to stop, but he didn't listen. As the shovel cut through the soil, the red liquid began to ooze out faster, thicker. The air turned heavy, silent. Then, crack, the ground beneath them split open. A foul smell rose from below, cold and suffocating. The father leaned closer, trying to see. From the darkness beneath the earth, something shifted. A long, pale shape slowly pushed upward, covered in thick, red mud. The boy stepped back in terror. "Father, please." But the father couldn't move. Two hollow eyes opened in the darkness. Then more, and more. That night, the villagers heard screams echoing from the fields. By morning, the land was quiet again. Too quiet. No bodies were found. But from that day on, no one ever went near that patch again. Because sometimes, late at night, the soil still moves, and something beneath it is still hungry. In the middle of the field stood an old, sealed well. Its stone edges were cracked, its wooden lid rotting with age. The villagers always warned, "Never open it." The father ignored the stories. "Just old fears," he would say. But the son, he was curious. One afternoon, while his father worked at the far end of the field, the boy walked toward the well. The air felt colder around it, unnaturally still. He placed his hands on the wooden lid. For a moment, he hesitated. Then slowly he pushed. Creak. The lid slid aside. Darkness stared back at him. At first, there was nothing. Then, breathing. Slow. Deep. Not his. The boy's heart began to pound. "Hello," he whispered. The breathing stopped. Silence. Relieved, he quickly closed the lid and ran back. But that night, something changed. As the boy lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, he heard it again. Breathing. Closer this time. He sat up. "Father," he called softly. No answer. The sound came from the corner of the room. Heavy. Wet. Patient. The boy's eyes slowly turned toward the darkness. Nothing was there. But the breathing continued. Night after night, it grew louder, closer, until it felt like it was right beside him. Watching. Waiting. Finally, unable to bear it, the boy woke his father. "There's something in the house," he whispered. The father sighed, annoyed, and grabbed a lantern. "I'll show you there's nothing." They checked every corner. Nothing. But as they returned to the boy's room, the father suddenly stopped. The lantern flickered. The air turned cold. From behind them, breathing. Not one, but two. Slowly, they turned around. The door to the room was closed. From the other side, something scratched softly, and a voice whispered, "You opened it." The sun was setting as the father and his son finished their work in the fields. Long shadows stretched across the Urdu, moving with them as they walked home. But the boy suddenly slowed down. "Father," he said quietly, "does your shadow ever move on its own?" The father laughed. "Don't be foolish. A shadow only follows." The boy forced himself to stay quiet, but something felt wrong. All day, he had felt eyes on him. Every time he turned around, there was nothing, just the empty field and his shadow. Or so he thought. That night, as he stood near the lantern in his room, he noticed it. His shadow didn't match him. He raised his hand slowly. His shadow stayed still. A cold chill ran down his spine. "Father," he called, his voice shaking. Footsteps approached, but before the father entered, the shadow suddenly moved. Not with him, toward him. The boy stumbled back as the dark shape stretched unnaturally along the wall, growing taller, longer, twisting into something that didn't belong to any human. The father rushed in. "What's wrong?" "Look," the boy cried, pointing at the wall. But now it was normal. Just a shadow. The father sighed. "You're imagining things." But the boy knew the truth. That night, he couldn't sleep. The lantern flickered, casting shadows across the room. And then, he saw it again. This time, his shadow slowly peeled itself off the wall. It stood behind him, watching, breathing. The boy froze, unable to move. A cold whisper brushed against his ear. "You noticed me." The next morning, the father woke up alone. The boy was gone. But on the wall, there were two shadows, and only one of them moved. It started with a sudden collapse. The father and son were plowing their land when the ground beneath them cracked open, sinking slightly and revealing something unnatural beneath the soil. A wooden surface, old, rotting, hidden. They cleared the dirt away and uncovered it fully, a door, buried deep in the earth. The father's face turned pale. "We leave this alone," he said firmly. "Some things are meant to stay buried." But the son couldn't stop thinking about it. A door under the ground. That night, when the father was asleep, the boy returned with a lantern. The field was silent. Too silent. The door was still there, waiting. He knelt down, his heart racing, and grabbed the rusted handle. For a moment, he hesitated. Then slowly, creak, the door opened. A cold, foul odor rushed out from below, carrying a smell of decay and something far worse. A staircase appeared beneath, leading down into darkness. The boy swallowed hard and stepped inside. Each step creaked beneath his weight. The light from his lantern flickered wildly, as if something didn't want him there. At the bottom, he reached a narrow tunnel. The walls were damp, covered in strange symbols scratched into the dirt. And then he heard it. A whisper, not from ahead, but from behind. He turned around quickly. The staircase was gone. The door above vanished. The tunnel stretched endlessly in both directions. The whisper grew louder. Many voices now. Soft. Hungry. Stay. The boy tried to run, but the ground beneath him shifted. The walls seemed to breathe, closing in. That night, the father woke up to silence. His son was gone. When he rushed to the field, the Zamien was normal again. No crack. No door. Nothing. But sometimes, when the wind is still, a faint knocking can be heard from beneath the ground, as if something wants to come back out. The father first noticed it at the edge of the field, a small patch of land where crops had already begun to grow, tall, dark, and unnaturally healthy. He frowned. "We never planted here." The son stepped closer, uneasy. Maybe seeds blew in with the wind. But something felt wrong. The plants were too perfect, too still. Not even the wind made them sway. Days passed, and that patch grew faster than the rest of the field. The father became excited. "This is a blessing," he said. "We'll harvest this first." The villagers, however, whispered among themselves. "Zeminup no. Don't touch those crops." The boy grew more afraid with each passing day. One evening, as the sun dipped low, he walked toward the patch alone. He reached out and touched one of the plants. It felt warm, not like a plant, like skin. He pulled his hand back in shock. The ground beneath the crops seemed softer, almost breathing. Suddenly, One of the stalks cracked open slightly. The boy froze. Inside, something white, curved, a bone. He stumbled back, his heart racing. That night, he begged his father to stop. Please, don't harvest them. But the father refused. Early the next morning, with a sickle in hand, he stepped into the patch and began cutting. The moment the blade sliced through the first crop, a scream echoed, not from the father, from the vimana. The plants began to tremble violently. The soil split open, and pale, bony shapes started pushing upward. Hands, dozens of them, grabbing, pulling. The father screamed as the ground dragged him down. The boy stood frozen, tears in his eyes. Within seconds, it was over. Silence returned. The crops stood still again, untouched. But now, they seemed taller. And beneath the soil, something had been fed. It began with dreams. Every night, the father saw the same vision, a glowing treasure buried deep beneath his land. Gold, jewels, more wealth than he had ever imagined. Dig, a voice whispered in his dreams. It's yours. At first, he ignored it. But the dreams didn't stop. They grew stronger, clearer, until one morning, he woke up with a strange certainty. He knew exactly where to dig. The son noticed the change immediately. His father's eyes looked different, distant, obsessed. Today, the father said, grabbing his tools, we become rich. They walked to the far end of the field, a place they had never touched before. Here, the father said, pointing to the ground. The boy hesitated. Something feels wrong. Start digging, the father snapped. Reluctantly, the boy obeyed. The soil was hard at first, then suddenly soft. Too soft. As they dug deeper, the air grew colder. The sounds around them faded, as if the world itself was pulling away. Then, clang. The shovel hit something. Metal. The father's face lit up. I told you. They cleared the dirt away, revealing an old, rusted chest. With shaking hands, the father forced it open. Inside, darkness. No gold. No jewels. Just an endless black void. The boy stepped back. Father, this isn't right. But the father leaned closer, mesmerized. The whisper returned. Not in his dreams. Right beside him. Closer. Suddenly, something moved inside the chest. A long, shadowy shape twisted upward. Then hands. Too many hands. They grabbed the father and pulled him inside. He didn't even scream. The chest slammed shut. Silence. The boy stood frozen, tears streaming down his face. Slowly, the chest began to sink back into the ground, as if it was never there. That night, the boy lay awake, trembling. And in the darkness, a familiar voice whispered, dig.